Good morning, everyone. This video is specifically for my land titles clients, for the people that have been calling me up and asking me to do up Allodial titles for them. I'm going to give a little bit of a backstory of how I got into doing this in the first place. It was back last year, May 2021, when our government passed Bill C-15, also known as UNDRIP, which stands for United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. It basically states, in short, that at any time the Indigenous people want to reclaim their land from us landowners, they can do so. Being that as it's a United Nations agenda, we know that the end goal is actually not to benefit the Indigenous people, but basically our government's way of using them as a middleman to get the land out of our hands as the landowners and into the government's hands. So when we learned that, then my husband and I were pretty shook. So we decided to look into this a little bit. Like, surely if we protest this and take this to court, like that'll never go through. There's no way that can go through. So my husband started by Googling, do I own the land that I have bought and paid for in Canada? And Google basically said, no, you don't. It said you own tenure to your property, but the Crown actually owns the land. And when we looked on our certificate of title for our specific property, it did say my husband's name and my name as joint tenants on land description so-and-so. So, well, that's not very encouraging. So we started looking into if there was anything we could possibly do about this, like to get better standing for our ownership of our land. And we learned through our research that yes, you can establish what is called an allodial title on your property. And allodial title is the highest form of title. The one description or definition that I read of allodial title was like the king's title. So basically, if you reclaim your original grant and bring it up in your name, the way you do that is you trace the full chain of titles from yourself as the current landowner all the way back down to the original grant. Then you do up a declaration using the information from the grant and state that you're bringing up the grant in your name. And then you post it for 30 days. And then there are a few other things that you can do after that. You notify your bank that your property is now under allodial title. And they have, from the day you notified them, my dogs are fighting. Anyway, from the day that you notify them, they have 60 days to challenge that declaration in court. If they miss that 60-day window, they've lost their opportunity. So we sent notice to our bank, we sent it registered mail, and I kept the registration slips and the letter and everything. So basically that's beneficial, I guess, in the event of foreclosure. Hopefully none of us face that, but yeah, there is that. And then even if your property is paid for, but if you're using it to back another loan, let's say you've co-signed for your son and you're using your quarter section as backing for his loan, it still applies to that then. The way I gather it, they can take your possessions if you're not making your payments, but they cannot cross your property line to get your possessions. So basically, if you keep your possessions on your property, then yeah, they can't cross over onto there and take them. I also recommend sending notice to anybody who has like if you have irrigation lines on your land or irrigation canals, if you have power lines, gas lines, notify all those companies that the property is now under allodial title and they need to call ahead and ask for permission before coming on. And then you can also get that declaration sent into the Justice Department of your respective provinces and get them to authenticate it. The Land Titles Office won't do it. We've inquired there. Not here in Saskatchewan anyway. I haven't, I don't know if anybody's tried in Alberta or anything. Alberta and Saskatchewan are the only two provinces I've worked in so far. But yeah, here in Saskatchewan, the Justice Department authenticated the declaration and sent it back with a green bow and a letter saying that it was the notary stamp was authenticated. And whatever. So you get some government backing for it, which is good. Yeah, I think I mentioned you post the declaration for 30 days, and then keep a copy of preferably a certified copy of the grant on hand, as well as, you know, the township survey map is also a good idea, and a certified copy of the current title with you as a current owner, so that if anybody tries to challenge you on it, you have all the paperwork to back it. Now, I'm also going to say that there are there's a number of different kinds of grants, but there's two main ones. There is grants that were granted oftentimes to the railway companies, and oftentimes in the odd numbered quarter sections. Granted to the railway companies, and on the grant it says to their heirs, successors, and assigns forever. Those are very solid grants. It is my understanding that there's a precedent with those grants having been challenged at a Supreme Court of Canada level and having stood. There are another kind of grants that they granted to the homesteaders. On those grants, they put in fee simple. So if you look up the definition of in fee simple, it means basically the government still can impose some restrictions and stuff like that on your property. I'm honestly not convinced that issuing a land patent, which is the original paperwork ever done up for the property, issuing that in fee simple is not a fraudulent thing to do, but it's not the first time the government would have pulled something fraudulent. So anyway, if you have a grant that is done in fee simple, then you are going to do more. You're going to need to do more than just establish a Allodial title through the process that I'm telling you about. Every time somebody calls me up and they want an Allodial title done, but their property is in fee simple, I always ask them, like, are you guys part of a common law group? Are you learning about getting yourself out of the system, like reclaiming your securities, changing your status, whatever you want to call it? Because a fee simple grant in and of itself will likely not stand in court. So I highly recommend, if you have a fee simple grant, that you're going to need to do more than just what I can do for you. So yeah, I would say make steps towards trying to change your status from the trustee to the beneficiary, like I referenced in the previous videos that I sent you guys. So I can kind of get you started down the path of changing your status, but I haven't actually done mine completely either. Our property, we were fortunate, was an Assigns Forever grant. So, but we're still, even at that, we're still working at trying to change our status anyway, just because it's beneficial in so many other areas than just the land thing. I like to specify to people that the land thing is just the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more to government overreach and whatever you want to call it than just the land thing. But the land thing is a good place to start. But yeah, please, if you have a fee simple grant, do more than just what I can do for you, because that's likely not going to cut it. And even if you have an Assigns Forever grant, I tell people your Allodial title is as good as your ability to defend it, because we can do all this paper, we can follow all these steps to a T, and our government is not going to just roll over and die. I personally I'm 5'2" and 125 pounds, and I have stood in front of Sask Power's 1-ton pickup and informed them that no, you cannot proceed. The property is under Allodial title. You have to be willing to do that. My husband has had it out with the RCMP. Like, no, you actually cannot come on this property without calling ahead. We have signs posted at the edge, or at our property lines, so that people know that. And if they come blasting on here anyway, we inform everybody who comes. Sask Energy has sent their maintenance guys on here, and we've gone out and told them, you know, like, we appreciate what you're doing, but did you not see the sign at the end of the driveway? Well, yeah, we did, but we weren't sure what it meant. Well, this is what it means. This is basically it's basically sovereign land. So you have to call ahead before you come on here. And invariably, every time, then the next time they need to come on here, they'll call ahead. Or else, like the RCMP in the situation there, we informed them of the Allodial title the first time they came on, and that was to issue my husband a $2,800 ticket because he had gone into the Lloydminster Hospital without a mask on. Anyway, so we informed them that time property is under Allodial title. We didn't make a big scene of it. We were pleasant, we were polite, but we did inform them, told them exactly what it all entailed, and encouraged them to read up on it themselves. And then the next time my son had a party here, somebody called the cops, and They followed the kids to the property line, but they did not, once they found out it was at our place, they did not cross the property line. So they will, people can learn, government agents can learn, and most of the time they're not trying to be ignorant, but they actually just, they're uninformed. So you are going to have to be willing to be very firm and stick to your guns. Like the SAS Power guy got pretty belligerent until we hauled out the grant, we showed him the paperwork, and we, you know, my husband got very detailed with him as to what this actually all involved. Well, yeah, he did back down, and then the next time he called ahead before he came on, because he tried to tell us, like in 1950, you know, the government passed a bunch of bylaws or whatever it was, that they had authority to go on any property where they had power lines. And my husband said, well, actually in 1904, this is what we were, what the previous owners of our property were given. And so yeah, it's not that they're unwilling to learn. It's just that, you know, they don't know. And if you're a timid person and you're just hoping that, you know, because you got this declaration done now and the work that I've done for you, now automatically nobody's going to try to touch your property, they still will. And you're just going to have to stick to your guns. Like when Chrystia Freeland was up there in, was it Grand Prairie, where she was trying to expropriate, or where she signed paperwork to expropriate a bunch of property because of that caribou migratory path or whatever. It was all under the guise to protect the caribou and whatever. Those people, even if they had an allodial title, even if they had an Assigns Forever grant, they're still going to have to get firm with the government and say, no, you can't take our land, and you're going to have to provide paperwork and all that kind of thing. So I've had people ask me, like, is this going to, so now this thing that you've done, this paperwork that you've done, this is going to stand now? I can't promise you that. That's kind of, I've done what I can. What I've basically done for you is I am very familiar with the government, with the land titles websites for Saskatchewan and Alberta. So I can get you all the paperwork that you need to establish that title, and I can read a grant and I can do up a declaration for you. But whether or not it's going to stand, that's actually kind of out of my hands. And I want to be very clear about that. I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a degree in law. I don't know how the judge is going to rule should this ever go to court. All I am doing for you is accessing government websites, and I kind of know who to talk to and who to ask questions to, and I'm not a super timid person, so I'm not scared to get tough with the girls at the land titles office if they're not giving me what I want. That's all I can do. The rest is on you. So I've had people say, well, okay, so now is this registered with the government then that I have an allodial title? And no, it's not actually, because you just took your property out of the government's control, so they're not going to issue you an allodial title, you know. So the only government authentication you're probably going to get, unless somebody, you know, unless people, I mean, we're always trying to learn more, those of us that are doing it. But the only government authentication that we have gotten so far is from the Justice Department. But I mean, that in itself is good. Like, you can, if somebody wants to argue with you, you can provide, you can say, look, this is authenticated by the government. But yeah, I think that's all I had for today. So yeah, the main points are, if you have a fee simple grant, or even an Assigns Forever grant, but especially a fee simple one, you are definitely going to have to do more than just what I can do for you. And I am not the land savior. I am just simply a girl who's familiar with government websites. So I hope that helps you out, and I hope you guys have a great day.